point about disconnections, I was wondering, and this is partly because we're starting some research now looking at what people do across different image platforms, and particularly we want to know practices around untagging or deleting pictures or pressure to post. So sort of some of the more negative aspects, or the things, the practices that maybe you hear less about or you make assumptions about. And so one of the things that I was wondering, as you said, you know, kind of disconnect, and maybe this is not something that's come up, but I was wondering about this in relation to an anecdote somebody recently told me, is parents uploading videos on YouTube of their children, and then children deciding at a later point that they would like videos to be taken down, or that there is negotiation with the parents, or other people who might upload them in a way or capture them in a way that hasn't been negotiated or that they feel is inappropriate. And so the kind of the disconnect around, I don't want you to share my image, or I don't want you to share video footage of me for these and these reasons. And I thought your example, I think of Abby and Salma, who had a show that was then revealed, and the exposure through a particular kind of visibility, even though they are visible, but that kind of different context within that visibility than in the classroom, and then them stopping the practice. So I'm interested in the practices maybe that they talked about, or other people filmed and they were unhappy about.
Yeah, I think, no, great question, Frida, thank you. Yes, I think what kind of lies behind so many of these different practices of engagement is a sort of effort to find a space of agency where the young people feel they can pursue their interest, and they pursue, you know, such a diversity of interests, sometimes on YouTube or online, and sometimes not at all. But it's that sense of agency and having control has become such a negative word, but they want to have control over it, yes. And so a lot of their talk, and I would say it's about the way they talk about their social lives offline as well as online, is fraught with potential for embarrassment and things being embarrassing they talked about a lot. And what is embarrassment is about losing control over that which you want to have control of, which you don't understand exactly, or you can't anticipate the ramifications of in these kind of complex networks that they are all embedded in. And the search for disconnection, we could see in relation to their peers, but much less than in relation to the adults, the teachers and the parents. So there's a kind of, you know, that's why I'm positive about, in a way, about the civility that the classroom generated with its kind of convivial watching of out-of-date mass media. Because there was a kind, they talked about each other with a kind of sibling tolerance, even though things could go wrong and they could clash. But parents and teachers building spaces, often with nice educational or shared purposes, that intruded into their lives, that was that was something they really wanted to. It comes up much more in the ways in which they talk about social networking and teachers just setting up Facebook groups for their kids. Just no, please, no. And parents is an emerging story, I think, because we've become used to the idea of parents as digital immigrants and the kids as digital natives, to use this trite term, and now the parents are doing it too. And yeah, well, as the kids see it, proving remarkably insensitive. Though I have just written a paper about the way in which parents post pictures of their kids, because what they want to say is about me as a parent. I mean, that is also their identity, and they need the kids to show who they are. It's just that the kids don't want the parents to show who the kids are. So there's an asymmetry.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Hi, Sylvia. Listen, thank you for your talk. I was wondering if you could explain a bit more about the music practices for the students that were musicians or were studying music, and for the ones that use YouTube for music purposes, and whether any of the students that were intentionally wanting to pursue a career in music, if they were very open about it, or it was something that was just mentioned to you but was not publicly announced in class and so on.
I think music is positioned, especially for young adolescents, as the creative form they have the potential to really do something with. And I couldn't say the same about art, which is sort of taught at school, and a few took up, or drama, which there's something about music that seems really to kind of start with their interest, because they're all immersed in listening to music the entire time. And perhaps because they see so many music stars who are making money and are successful, but it seems they talk about it like that is the potential route. If anything is going to take them in a creative, self-taught route to success, it will be music. And it's a kind of irony then that music is probably the thing that especially the pressurizing, concerted cultivation types of parents most try to get their kids to learn. So there's a sort of clash of genres, and the official teaching is of the classical music curriculum, and what the kids want to learn themselves is how to play like their favourite band. And YouTube offers them the latter route. And some of them could really kind of compartmentalise the two musics. But it was really only the kids who wanted to learn the classical route going up through the grades, which seemed to us remarkably like going up through the levels, that would be positively recognised as learning something worth knowing by the teachers and the parents. And the ones who were, Professor spent hours and hours and hours, and he would practice by himself, and then an older brother or his father who also played the guitar would come in and they'd do it together, and then he'd be on his own, and then he'd go to the YouTube tutorial to learn the next, how do you play A flat minor or whatever it is, or how do you do that particular part of the song. And it was a very kind of dedicated self-taught process and yet to his teachers he was a chaotic boy who was always late and never seemed to pay attention to anything. And I was just kind of fascinated by how he could be someone so different and self-motivated, and there was the digital world exactly providing him with the just-in-time snippets of information he wanted, not the 45 minutes of monologue that told him what someone thought he should know. So I suspect there are many kids like that.
Thanks very much, Sonia. I've been engaged the last 3 years or so with a project on the way in which screen education, how screens are used in classrooms. It's different from yours. Is very much focused on the kids and their uses. But just think for a minute about the out-of-date mass media that comes through that rather strange screen. Are you saying that screen is actually an active screen?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a large widescreen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. One of the really strong findings in the work that we've been doing is that YouTube is the go-to place for almost all teachers under almost all circumstances these days. And while your study is not teacher-centric, I wondered whether you might want to comment a little on, it's not only, long-form Chariots of Fire, now we're going to watch 90 minutes of Chariots of Fire. That one of the big findings that we had was that the ability, YouTube delivers chunked, educative content in very bite-sized chunks, with to flavour some an appealing kind of format for kids because of the general familiarity they have with, that you can go to YouTube for anything kind of thing. So would you say a little bit, or want to make a comment about teaching strategies or pedagogic strategies in that classroom? Hopefully that doesn't take you away from your primary frame, which is about the kids themselves.
Well, I mean, actually, in the data set, we have lots from the teachers, and we interviewed all the teachers and spent time with them as well, but we didn't kind of put their voices in the book, which we wanted to be the children speaking primarily. So I'm still thinking what to do with what I have from the teachers, who are, a lot of them kind of rather excited and willing to experiment with different kinds of forms. I mean, YouTube is, yes, the sort of the go-to provision of audiovisual content. There were lots of other experiments. They were trying to set up blogs with kind of, fun maths puzzles that the kids could do in the evenings if they wanted to, which they didn't. And Facebook groups, as I said, they were kind of using, I think they are at the point of experimenting with possibilities. There was a struggle in this school, as I think there is in many schools, about how to resource this and how to kind of train those teachers so that they have the right kinds of the content they need that fits in the ways that they want, and how is it being communicated and explained to parents and children that some of this could bridge home and school or could be done outside school time. There was interesting. I mean, I say the window on the world thing with some pain, because there's that moment in the class when you say, now we're going to watch a film, and even if it's only 5 minutes. I'm sorry to say that Roots was broken up into 10-minute chunks and spread over an interminable number of Friday afternoons, not watched all at once. There is just something about the minute they dim the lights when everyone just goes, yeah, and kind of turns off their critical faculties, and you could see the teachers, they're tired and stressed, so then they turn back the curriculum when the lights go up again. And that kind of worries me, because YouTube does a lot of stuff in the class. It puts up adverts, they think something's going to come up, and it's blanked out because it's been taken down for some copyright reason, and the server's gone down again. Because, so it's frustrating and quite anxiety-provoking for them. And then when it does work, there's a kind of sit back, don't think critically. So I see the desire to experiment, and I see the potential. But I could also see ways in which the very appeal of audiovisual material, unless used really skillfully, turns off people's critical faculties. And Roots is not a window on the world, the story of slavery. And a lot of the stuff that they used was not the kind of naive world.
Well, just one quick follow-up. I mean, it wasn't the case for you, clearly, but YouTube has been, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the lot, have been banned in many school jurisdictions, in many places in the world. That's not so much the case now, but certainly earlier on it was, for reasons such as the intrusiveness of advertising, etc., etc. So, just thinking again of like a YouTube-centric approach to some of these things, that the experience that you've just given of the anxiety around the hybrid and commercial nature of YouTube. I mean, that in our case, we found that teachers heavily curated their use of YouTube, so that they went in with pre-loaded content, or they knew how to control for those kinds of anxiety-causing moments.
Okay, one last question, please.
Thank you. My question will be on parents and children's use of YouTube and media, because you mentioned cases when parents discourage children or they don't find this use meaningful. or they embarrass their children in some ways in media. And I was just wondering, were there any instances where parents actually had a positive influence on children's use of media or YouTube? Were there any collaborations between parents and children? So were there any instances where they actually worked together to meaningfully use media, develop some knowledge, develop some skills?
No. I don't say that I got to know everything about those kids' lives, and they are just one group of 28 kids, so it's possible. I think I could see that more for things that parents felt they knew more about, like sharing, learning how to use a camera together. If a parent was kind of into photography, but I didn't see that. Maybe a little bit with Giselle, who had her own channel, and her dad, who was quite arty, kind of helped with a few bits at the. But mainly, and this might be about the age group we picked, and we wanted 13 to 14 because they are kind of on the brink in a sense of, but they are really wanting to feel their own. They kind of do it by themselves, don't they, and do the things that they can do without. Parents could help in other ways. They helped with homework. They shared going down after this and or watching telly together, or they cooked together. It's not that these were, in any way dysfunctional parents. It's more like there was a kind of tacit agreement that when the kid goes upstairs and opens the laptop or computer or takes their phone off, that's their time.
Thank you, Sonia. I don't want this discussion to end, to be honest with you, but I think we are all getting a little bit tired after 2 days of a full conference. Thank you so much for sharing with us this fascinating. Thank you for coming here and attending the conference and sticking for all 2 days. A special thank you to our keynote who have been fantastic interacting with everyone, listening to everyone's paper. We really appreciate that. I won't spend too long. I would just like to thank Professor Jane Arthurs for organizing the conference. It was really her brainchild. Alessandro and I for supporting Jane. And last but not least, I really want to thank our army of people who made this conference possible, starting with Nicholas Skinner, who has been behind the scenes every day, making sure that everything runs smoothly, and it did. Thank you so much. Tech support